Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Film Attackers, and I'm here with Milkinator.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're doing a review for the movie Slither. I said I was going to do this a while ago, but things have happened in our lives. We both needed to step away from YouTube for a bit to get shit together, and since we were both back, we decided to do this. So we're reviewing this amazing movie. It's James Gunn's directorial debut, first film he ever directed, and unfortunately, it was a major flop at theaters. And because of that, we never saw any more of that franchise. But we do have more James Gunn films, such as Guardians of the Galaxy, and he produces films like Brightburn, which was also a really great film in my opinion. And overall impressions, I love the movie. I watched it as a kid, and I'm still watching it to this day. This was Milk's first time watching it, so Milk, go ahead and tell us what you thought about the movie overall. Then we'll get to like acting and all that.
Yeah, for a low budget film, I thought that it was definitely worth a watch. It was a weird retro sci fi film. I definitely enjoyed seeing this for the first time. I thought that the pacing was nice. The movie was compelling itself. It didn't get like dull at the mid part or the ending. It was all the way through, it was entertaining. The monster was scary and creative. The CGI was impressive for 2006. It seemed adequate.
And I have to agree. So first one, we're gonna get into acting. This movie has three major actors in it: Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks. Say what you want about her, she is kind of a shit person. Back in the day, she was a great actress, but nowadays she's genuinely kind of a shit person. And the movie has Michael Rooker in it, which you may know from Walking Dead as Merle, and also he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. And overall, this movie is a homage to B films from like the 1950s and all that. And they do overact, but it fits well with the tone of the film. I thought they did a perfect job acting in this movie. No one felt like a shit actor. It all felt perfect to what the movie's theme was. My opinion is, I think the acting is very well done, and you can tell James Gunn wanted these actors to do a great homage to like 50s actors. So go ahead, Milk.
The acting was phenomenal. I've seen like better acting, but it wasn't terrible. They genuinely felt as if they were in a situation where they were being attacked by parasite infested humans. The jokes, they all fit.
It felt very James Gunn. I will say the humor is very James Gunn like. Like if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, like their humor, you'll like this humor. It's basically the same style of humor.
Yeah, and it didn't take away from like the horror of the film. Like it didn't make it feel like, I guess, take you out of it a little bit with the jokes, but it got right back into it, and it reminded you that they were in a situation where they could all die.
And the actors played their part beautifully. Especially, I will say Nathan Fillion and Michael Rooker did an amazing job with what they were given. Now, of course, Michael Rooker he's very much overacting in this film. He's playing kind of like an asshole. He's like a redneck asshole. But when he gets possessed by the creature, I will say his acting, it turns 180, and he's so damn scary when he becomes infected.
Yeah, Michael Rooker did a very good job of acting. I thought the monster he played was it was really powerful. It was like fast and deadly. It was like a creative monster. It wasn't like a rehashed alien. It was its own creature. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it was the film itself. You can tell that James Gunn definitely had a vision in terms of like what like he you can tell like with him he always said that he will cast his actors before like once the script's done he'll cast before like anything else happens, and you can tell he definitely because Nathan Fillion's role feels like a Nathan Fillion role. Michael Rooker's role felt perfect for him. Elizabeth Banks, honestly, even though I'm not the biggest fan of her, thought she was great in this, but I think the real standout was the actor who played Wally, which I want to find out his name real quick. The actor who played Wally, the governor or the mayor of the town, Don Thompson. He was he was the comedic relief, and he came up with some of the most interesting swear words of all time. Okay, no, sorry, I got the actor's name wrong. His name is Greg Henry. I'm sorry. He played his name was Jack. Jack McCready, I think his name is. It's been a while since I watched the movie. His name is Jack. He's the mayor of the town. If you'll notice him, like his first scene is fucking hilarious. He starts swearing in front of all those little kids because of traffic. Bro, me and you busted laughing at that
Yeah.
shit. But I will the cinematography to me, it has a old school feel. I love it when a director definitely wants to nail a certain feeling for a film. For instance,
Like you said, he had a vision, and it definitely lived up to that vision.
oh yeah, if you ever seen the movie Mid '90s, which was directed by Jonah Hill, and it's a great A24 film. That film feels like it could have came straight out the '90s. This movie feels like it could have came straight out the fucking '80s at times. But he mixes different elements of like '80s horrors, '50 horror, '60s horror, and it's all rolled up into one like big nostalgic filmmaking trip because the shots feel very '50s and all that because he does a lot of zoom ins, like, and it feels very smooth, but at the same time you're watching this is like someone from like the 1950s could have done these shots. Yeah, and no, the it was very well done. I will say the director of photography and the camera work on the movie, they deserve props. It was really well done, really smooth, and I didn't think a shot felt out of place. I didn't watch this movie and think, "Oh my god, this shot that doesn't fit right." No, I think every single shot in this movie was done really well, especially the scene of the bathtub. If you watch the trailer, you know what I'm talking about. It has a nice overhead view of the bathtub, and you see one of the little parasites swimming in there, and you can tell it's a reference of Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a blatant reference to Nightmare on Elm Street, but which is like it's set up the same way as that film, so it's kind of like an homage. It's really well done, and props to the camera guy. They did an amazing job with the cinematography on this film. But I also want to get into the writing of this film, which this movie is also written by James Gunn, which feels very much like a James Gunn film. Um, I don't think there was a bad line in the movie. I think the film itself had great writing. I don't know about you. I think all the line like it when there's jokes, the delivery was perfect and the writing was perfect for the jokes because it felt appropriate.
There was this one scene that I wanted to discuss. It was a bathtub scene. When the parasite was swimming towards the girl, it eventually connected with her, and she sort of like focused out into this world where it showed like this foreign planet. The parasites were attacking these other creatures. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, that I think that's where he said like the CGI wasn't all that good, but
I'm fine with it, but I wish they would have explained that more because that like opens the door to entirely new realm, and I was hoping that they would explain that a bit more. It wasn't too substantial, but still I wish they would have elucidated on or explained that a little more.
I know what you mean. I have a feeling they were going to do another movie, probably explaining that. But of course, if you didn't know, this movie flopped. The budget was 15 million and only made 12 million back. So it was a huge failure. Well, considering it is still technically a failure at the box office. So we weren't going to get another Slither film, which sucks. Now it's become like this big cult classic, and and it deserves that status. I think it's a really good film. Yeah, it deserves that status. It's a great cult film. But well, I think what really helps this movie a lot is two major things, and I think it's the writing, which I think the writing is great in this film. Like I said, there's no joke in this movie that I feel like could have been removed. There's no line of dialogue that I think could not have been like everything feels like it belongs there. And what's weird is that this also isn't James Gunn's first time writing. If you ever seen the movie The Dawn of the Dead remake, which was directed by Zack Snyder, that film was written by James Gunn. And when I was watching that movie, because I watched that movie after Slither, it came out for it, I was like, this feels very much like the writing of Slither. And of course, it's from the same writer, James Gunn. And James Gunn has a very particular set of writing. He'll do a very dark story, aka like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, had a very dark story, but he's able to write in such a way where there's humor in it. And like the humor doesn't feel like it's out of place or out of nowhere. It feels very much connected in the world with that character. So it doesn't feel out of place. And he's really good at doing that. And I'm pretty sure if you've ever watched a James Gunn film, you probably see that.
One thing I want to bring up is you mentioned it had slasher aspects, and I really felt that way as well because some of the deaths and it just kills it like uses one of its tentacles to whip the officer, and it kills him instantly. Like, doesn't it cut him in half?
It cuts him straight in half. Yeah.
And I felt like, yeah, that was a very slasher oriented thing to do.
Yeah, because this film has like different like has sci-fi horror and like slasher horror, and if you're a big fan of horror like I am, you'll notice subtle references. Again, the biggest reference I saw was A Nightmare on Elm Street with the bathtub scene. And again, it's just to me this feels like James Gunn just showing his love of like horror and gross out horror because this is a very disgusting film. This is a disgusting movie. The if you don't know, Slither is literally about this little comet. Well, I would say like a little egg falls to the earth and it unleashes a parasite that infects people, and it's all connected by one main parasite. So that one main parasite will control every single parasite around the town that's there. So it's very much a very bloody, disgusting film. The kills are absolutely amazing in this movie, especially the one you just mentioned where he sliced them in half. It was so unexpected, but so damn cool to look at.
Yeah, Michael Rooker's character, as I mentioned before, it was overpowered, but that's what you want in like a slasher film, right? You don't want it to be too easy. You want
Yeah,
to
and I mean, you don't want a weak villain. Like I'm like, look, he's very much overpowered. He's the one who infects everyone because he gets infected first. But like Milk said, like you said, man, it'd be like if Jason was like, because Jason has to be
yeah.
overpowered for it to work, and for this movie, Grant has to be overpowered for this film to work because I mean, if they could just shoot him and he'd be dead, the film would be over. He has to be because in this movie he slowly starts to mutate as time goes on, becoming more powerful, more stronger, more disgusting looking. The makeup effects in this movie are so fucking good.
Oh, the ending when he was that giant blob, that was nasty.
Oh yeah. The makeup work in this movie is unlike anything I have ever seen. It's fun. So most of the makeup effect in this, most of the makeup stuff in this movie is all practical. So like the shot of Grant in the field, that was all practical. The end scene was practical effects. There is CGI use in this film, and I will say one of the flaws for me is that depending on how you look at this film, if you're so used to like Marvel films or like big budget films, you're going to look at the CGI and probably get disgusted with it, and that's fine. You know, this is a very much a low budget film. I think the CGI fits very well with the theme of like this low budget, like cheesy over the top horror film, a gross out film, and to me, you don't really need CGI for a movie to be good. There are movies out there with horrible ass CGI that have been really fucking good. And I'm pretty sure people are gonna look at that and say, "Oh, the CGI doesn't hold up well," which it doesn't. There's some scenes like the scene where she gets connected with the parasite and it shows them killing the other parasites. That CGI was not that good, but you could forgive it for what the tone is going for.
Certainly, and the practical effects make up for where the CGI fails to deliver.
Exactly. And of course, I mean, again, you just got to give props to everyone who worked on this film. I just wish because I think the failure of this movie because I was when I was growing up, it was like 2006. I was like around 8 or 9 years old. They barely showed promotion for this movie. They barely advertised it because they literally had no faith in what James Gunn could do. Because before then, James Gunn has never directed a film. He's mainly written movies. Like if you didn't know, he wrote the first two Scooby Doo movies, Scooby Doo and Scooby Doo Monsters Unleashed. He wrote those films, which again explains a lot because the movie has a very dark premise. But of course, they ruin it by making it too childlike because James Gunn's original vision for those movies was to make it more adult. But they said no. They made it more kid friendly, so it just feels kind of off. And he did the Dawn of the Dead remake, which I think is a great example of a fantastic remake. Like you can do a good remake, and Dawn of the Dead to me is one of them. So they didn't have much faith in what he could do, and they barely advertised the film. They just didn't promote it, and because of that action, it just flopped. So they kind of pushed aside Slither to work on other things, which sucks. I would very much like to see them do a TV show about Slither with James Gunn attached to it. I would love to see him expand on this lore. You know what I mean?
like I said, there's a lot of open doors which can lead to other stories being told. And it'll be interesting to see the universe of Slither be expanded.
Exactly. I will say I do have some flaws with the movie. It's not a perfect film. It's rare for me to say a film was perfect, and even still, not all films are perfect. Like I just like they're like if it's close to near perfection, I will say it's perfect. Like the movie Scarface and the Cornetto trilogy, I think those are perfect films. I will say the movie to me is a bit too short. I really would have loved this movie to be a little bit longer, just like maybe like 20 minutes. Because I get like this is meant to be like a quick watch. That's what you want. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. Which if you're like want something quick to watch, you can put this on. But I wanted to see them expand on like the lore of these creatures because we don't know what they are. We don't know where they came from. They just landed on Earth, attacked this town. Very little explanation on what's going on. That's another flaw is that I really wish James Gunn would have went into like the lore of these creatures, like to tell us what they are. Because I really would have loved to know like what planet they're from. Why did they come to this planet? Why did they attack the other parasites on their planet? I really would have loved to see that.
In conclusion, although the movie didn't make back its budget, I thought that it was a very enjoyable watch. I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah, the rewatchability on Slither is amazing. It's a movie that doesn't get tiring. It has great humor that holds up today. However, I do think that there are flaws, mainly with the movie's length and them not going more into the lore of these creatures. I still do think this film is a phenomenal film. I would personally give it a 9 out of 10. It's close to a 10 out of 10 if they change some things, like did what I said, like make it longer, go into the lore. But it's a 9 out of 10 film for me. It's very much a cult classic nowadays. So haven't seen it, watch it. Milk, you want to give your rating?
But if I had to, if you forced me right now, I would. It definitely wouldn't be lower than 6.
A 6 out of 10 for you.
Yeah, 6 or above, in that range.
I can see that. It's not a bad film. It's not a shit film. It's a great film. It's a film I think you guys should check out. I enjoyed watching this with Milk, and me and him had a blast watching it. We may do more sometime in the future. There are other movies I would love for him to watch that he's never seen. This was a great film for us to watch. It's a great if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. So if you guys want to check it out, it's cheap. Rent it, buy it, never pirate it. Don't pirate it. Support this movie. Maybe Universal will see it and actually make a TV show about it. You never know. So go support this film. It's a great film, and yeah, it was fun reviewing this with you, Milk. I had a blast, and I'll see you guys on the next video later.